what do you measure and who should do the measurement? A lot of stakeholders can benefit from measurements, the developers themselves measuring the effectiveness of their developed features and also deployments and releases. Security teams monitoring for compliance, overall trends and amounts of vulnerabilities in production and being deployed from development. Evaluating the different security controls. Measurements can help you determine how effective those things are, like the different tools and so on. Operations teams can ensure system uptime and minimize downtime by watching for security incidents and building mitigations for those. Leadership and executives can use the measurements to assess the value and cost effectiveness of different security projects and initiatives. Architects can use measures to evaluate the impact of security on system design, for example. So, there are other stakeholders, tooling, SREs, QA, and so on can also have benefits from measures. In general, DevSecOps metrics provide insights that are tailored to the need of specific stakeholders, or at least they can be interpreted in the context of the different stakeholder roles. By collecting and analyzing these metrics, organizations can enhance collaboration as well, because it gives you something concrete to talk about. Objectives, data tends to be objective. Ensure continuous improvement, maintain robust security posture across all teams. So I know in my own consulting work, I've got to the point where whenever we do a DevSecOps transformation project, I pretty much insist that we also put in place some of the measures to validate the progress of the project and also the effectiveness of the result. If you don't do that, you don't really know what you've got. You don't know where you are. You may be doing a lot of good work, but it's not affecting the outcomes. It's probably not as useful as you might think it is. So measures are critical, and you may want to adapt your DevSecOps solutions according to what the measurements tell you. Yeah, so there are a lot of different types of metrics that can be used and be useful for security and DevSecOps. The DORA metrics are, you probably are aware of those. We've talked about them in foundations courses, but there's really four primary metrics that the DevOps Research Association talks about that are pretty much table stakes for any DevOps implementation. The primary four metrics of deployment frequency. How frequently are you deploying changes to production? The time to restore a service, if you've got a security issue, how fast can you restore it? How often are failures occurring is another key metric. And the lead time for change. So how long does it take, let's say, from code check-in until you deploy a fix would be a good example. So those are kind of the fundamental four metrics that are, generally speaking, focused on the outcomes of the pipelines. If I was to choose just a few metrics, if I only had time for just a few, I would probably focus on those four because they're useful for DevOps and also for security. You can also have very specific DevSecOps metrics that are counting vulnerabilities or trends or vulnerability densities and things like that. Like at every stage in the DevOps cycles, you could come up with metrics, and those are more detailed metrics that are specific to different cycles. And then observability and training metrics. So observability is all about logs, traces, and metrics. Make sure that they're being, the security issues are part of building out observability. And of course, training as well. How often are trainings occurring to help developers understand security, for example, or QA or other team members. So plenty of different types of metrics. We'll talk about different ones. The DORA metrics are, again, even though they were initially discussed in the context of DevOps without security, they can pretty much apply equally well for security. How frequently can you deploy security fixes? How long does it take to do that? How long does it take? How often are you seeing security failures, and how long does it take to recover? Those are pretty important metrics. From my own experience, the lead time tends to be the one that most people focus on to start with, because it's all about doing things quickly with DevOps, including security aspects. That lead time must include security checks. So security is built in with DevSecOps. DevOps, security specific metrics with DevOps, there are many possibilities.
Some of them are measuring the effectiveness of individual parts of the life cycle. So time to remediate, mean time to detect. That can apply not only to the end result, but also to different steps. Number of vulnerabilities detected. Maybe you're looking at scanning results in the CI stage, for example. How many of those are getting fixed prior to deployment, for example? Overall, if you've got a security plan, to what extent are you covering the plan? There are other ways of measuring test coverage. Maybe you have some specific test cases that are for security. Are they getting executed? Are they passing? Are you passing the audits? That's another measure. How often are you having exceptions to your audit checks? False positives is something to keep an eye on. You don't want to waste a lot of time if you don't catch some important security issues and you find out later on, you have to go back and find and resolve them. Code reviews, again, with security people participating, you could measure that. Secrets detection or secrets getting leaked, you could measure that. Incident response time, how fast can you respond to incidents that are coming from the field? Pipeline security tests success rate. So there's tests going on at every stage in the value stream in the cycle. What are the success rates in each stage and failure rates? Vulnerability recurrence. Do you have a vulnerability that's coming back or maybe intermittent? Those can be interesting to look at. Build failure rates due to security issues, another type of measure. API security coverage, as all the elements of a contracted API being tested for security. This is not even an exhaustive list, so you can see when you get into DevOps specific metrics that are not just overall outcome. There's a lot of things you can look at. As you get more and more capable, you'll probably add more and more metrics over time, as well as ways to simplify the analysis of those metrics. Otherwise, you spend all your time going through the results manually. And observability and training, again, building security observability into products and infrastructure and applications and the pipelines themselves. So logs, traces, metrics specific to security. Looking at things like phishing simulations and what's the success rate. You can simulate phishing attacks. That's fairly popular in enterprises. Security training. To what extent is you're getting everybody covered with training? What's your frequency and maybe your repeat training occasionally to make sure everybody's reminded of what security concerns are and how to deal with those on a personal level. Compliance metrics is another area. So definitely, if you look at overall, there are lots of things you can potentially measure. So these metrics, some of them can be built into pipelines. Some of them are more at the organization level. Some of them are at the level of like a value stream that are higher level than individual CI/CD steps. Certainly at the value stream level, where you're looking at end-to-end, value creation from conception through to delivery. There's different things you can look at. Commit to learn is a good practice. Learning about security. You can maybe pick particular value streams to use as models or examples. Definitely learning about lean and how you can build in security without causing bottlenecks. Mapping out, using value stream mapping exercises to look at value streams from the point of view of security, understand the current state, identify possible future states and improvements, identify lean metrics, flow metrics, for example. Are you getting flow without constraints? Mapping a future state can help you understand how to meet future customer demands, where you might identify possible weaknesses in your value streams, how you can improve the flow, reduce bottlenecks and constraints, level out workloads, again, from a security point of view, creating plans, maybe use Kaizen to help track those plans and implement those plans. Yeah, you can also measure things like team satisfaction, contentment through surveys, interviews, focus groups, and include surveys in those metrics as well. Generally speaking, people tend to be happier as a team, and definitely team commitment and happiness is a key part of what DevSecOps can provide if it's done well. If not, people get a little nervous about
they're doing. You definitely don't want to get in a situation where you're accelerating deployments, but not adequately taking care of security. That doesn't feel good for people.